The following broadcast is intended for mature audiences. These are real people sharing very real, deeply personal experiences. This content may be considered triggering for others and for those who are sharing. The chat room is a privilege intended for discussions and sharing. You are not being asked to agree, but you are being asked to stay civil and refrain from personal attacks. Listener discretion is advised.
All right, welcome back. This is the season 3 premiere of Am I Mental, a mostly weekly podcast that deals with living with mental health issues. I am your host, E. With us, as always, is our co-host, Bexy.
Hey guys, it's great to be back. I'm excited about season 3.
Same here. And I know that everybody's anxious to get started to find out what we're talking about. But we're going to do a little bit of bill paying really fast. If you like our show and you want to help us out, please share episodes with others, especially episodes you think will be ones that resonate with someone else. Like if they're going through a situation, you're like, hey, they had this episode already. Let me go ahead and share it with them. Also, try, if you want to give us some financial help, which we always love, so that way we can keep expanding and growing. Go to www.amimental.net/donations. There's a number of ways to donate, and we appreciate all of it. So far right now, we are not making any money personally. It is all being just reinvested. And as usual, I'm going to shout out one more time for Rachel Conway at Genuine Psychological Services. She will be coming back this season, as usual. She's been helping us by spreading the news of us down in Southern California. And if you are looking for a therapist in the San Diego area, reach out to her. And now, without further ado, let's get started with our first guest of Season 3. Hey, Mr. Blonde, how's it going?
It is going well from the East Coast tonight. How are you?
Doing all right. We still have sunlight, and you don't, so that's fun.
I do not.
Anyway, so tell us a little bit about yourself and what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Yeah, so I'm basically a parent of a child with cancer, young child. Was about 6 years old when he was diagnosed, and going to kind of try to focus on the parental side because everybody knows that the kids, the siblings, and that type of stuff have all sorts of struggles, but kind of gets lost in the shuffle is the parents, which to an extent seems a little bit selfish, but you know, we're people too, and we're struggling probably more than anyone because we know 100% of what's going on. Whereas my kids right now are 3, 5, and 7. They were 2, 4, and 6 when my oldest was diagnosed. So mostly they didn't entirely know what was going on, and you got to kind of be strong for them. So to an extent, it feels like the parents are doing the burden of the emotional side of it. So
Right.
You know, from my perspective, I'm a wide open book. You're not going to offend me. If anyone's been through something like I've been, you realize that your sense of humor and what's dark for a lot of people turns into not really that dark anymore. So
Yeah.
if you offend me, good job, because that has not happened in a long, long time.
And it's funny that you mentioned the dark humor, considering that's kind of what caused us to bond, you know, because you have a son that has a very serious life-threatening condition. I had a son that was born with a death sentence that, fortunately, thanks to modern medicine, is no longer the case. But I was able to recognize your dark humor was really dark, and it just really stayed there. And I was like, you know, a dark humor is a dark humor, but when you stay there, there's something going on.
Yeah.
So that was like, hey, buddy, what's going on?
Yeah, you don't get this way by by being dealt a good hand. But so yeah, the hardest thing is, I would say so my son was probably thrown up for a couple months or so, off and on, started getting more regular and everything, kind of knew what was going on. And I'm just giving you a little bit of the background here, but came to the point where he's throwing up about 5-6 times a day and looking for every test.
Goodness.
He was just losing weight. So May 31st of last year, brought him in for an MRI, and then about 20 minutes later they said, hey, we want you to we need you to come to the children's ER room. We found a mass in his brain. And kind of from that point forward, you're on adrenaline, and it's not 12 hours, it's not 24 hours. It was probably a month of just, what do I need to do? You don't even have time to think or feel. Obviously your world's blown apart at that point.
Right.
You don't have time to process anything. It's, who's going to stay at the hospital? Who's going to stay at home with the other two? What do we need to get to the hospital? Because he was going to be there for, 3+ weeks just for the initial surgery, before we got any sort of break before treatment and that type of stuff. So for the first month or so, you're kind of just pushing everything down because you don't have time to feel. Again, you have to be the one that's strong for your kids, to let them know that, everything's going to be all right, even though you have no idea if that's the case.
Right.
You hear brain tumor and it's like, well, this is the end.
Yeah, I mean, you hear brain tumor, that's scary enough. Now, finding out it's brain cancer, that is where it gets terrifying, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So we waited probably about a week after they found the tumor that it was cancerous, because they had to send it off for biopsy and all that type of stuff. And for me, I was just like, I'm not going to be hopeful with this, because if I'm hopeful and it does turn out to be cancerous, then I'm just going to get crushed. So I was operating under the assumption for, that entire duration that it was cancer. So when they came back and told us it was, I was like, all right, this is what I knew was going to happen.
Right. And I could see the advantage of that, because if you get the whole thing of, oh, it was benign, that is just a pleasant surprise.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Unfortunately, one that we did not get, but, wasn't unexpected from my perspective. So, again, then it's just kind of everything's at that point is then absorbing knowledge, doing the research, figuring out treatments, talking to doctors about terminology you'd never heard of before, and that type of stuff. So again, you're not really thinking of anything. And I think when it kind of first started settling down, after it was about 3 weeks or so that my son was in the hospital and we got to come home, the whole family, and there's probably about 3 weeks before we had to drive about 300 miles to the nearest proton radiation place where we were going to be staying for 6 weeks. And that's when it kind of started hitting. And, we were on an island. We had just moved from Minnesota to South Carolina about not even a year before this happened. So we'd been in South Carolina for about 9 months. We lived in an apartment, moved into a house, and so this happened about 3 months after we moved into our house. We knew nobody.
So
we had
yeah,
one neighbor helped us move a couch in.
so basically you were living on a proverbial emotional and support island.
Yeah, we were 1,000 miles away from anyone and anything we knew. All our friends, family, that type of stuff. And we growing up, I wouldn't say I had an idyllic life, because it was the middle class poor, or not lower middle class, I would say, but nothing like this ever happened.
Right.
You broken bones, that type of stuff, just everything, just a normal kid life. So I had never really had to deal with any seriously traumatic experiences. I thought I had dealt with trauma before, but and I had always kind of off and on struggled with a little bit of depression, but nothing that I think is abnormal from society writ large. But I remember probably about a month after he was diagnosed, so we'd been home for about a week, and I sat in my bed for probably about 2 hours, not able to sleep, and to quote a terrible song that I hate, praying to a God that I don't believe in, to not wake up the next day. I sat there for 2 hours, and knowing full well, like, this would be horrible for my family, for my wife and kids to have to go through this without me, but I don't have the strength to do this.
Right.
Like, look at the daunting. Not only is it the 1.5 years of treatment, but it's the lifetime of is he going to, have to stay with us for the rest of his life because he's cognitively incapable of leading a normal life? Just all the extensive treatment, everything you have to do at home. We're looking at being isolated at that point, and then all the stuff with COVID hit. And now it's been 100% isolation for the last 9 months or so. But that was kind of when it first really started sinking in. Was just praying that I would not wake up the next morning.
And I know that feeling. It is not.
So do I.
It is a bad place to be.
And it's just a desperate, like, I don't know how to get out of bed in the morning, type of thing. But obviously you've got 3 kids that depend on you. And that's kind of when my wife and I realized that there really is no support for parents. There's no real support groups. There's nobody that gets it unless you've been through something like this before. So
right, and again, in our summer season of this year, we had R come on. Her daughter was raped by her brother while the daughter was at a really young age, and she made the same discovery, just like you. Didn't want to take away from the kid, but you can't take care of anybody else if you're not taking care of yourself.
Right.
And 20 years later, she still sees that it's the same problem. So she's actually writing a book to help with this. So
you absolutely neglect yourself, because everything you once enjoyed, that type of stuff, it all seems like the diet version of it. Like, I would always try to get out and do archery and that type of stuff. I'm kind of a bow fanatic.
Nice.
Just the thought of getting out of bed to do that is just like, well, sure, it'd be okay for a little bit, and that's it. So, I don't think I've picked up my bow to go out and shoot in a year and a half, which is mind-boggling. A year and a half ago that would be the case. But realistically, yeah, it's an awful island to be in, and everything compounds. You get more depressed, you get more anxiety. My wife has bipolar depression and anxiety, so she's got a good trifecta going on. So with that and everything else adding up, we're an absolute hot mess in the most intense way of putting it. It's terrible. The only thing that's helped is, we've been able to connect with some local people. Actually, there's 2 people here within 20 miles of us that have been through the exact same thing.
Oh, wow.
One of them,
Oh my,
exact same brain cancer, different subtype, yada yada yada, technical terms, but the same medulloblastoma diagnosis. So we'd been able to connect with them, and that's helped with my wife. But my coping method has always been repression. I can talk like an open book like this when it's not a face to face, but if I'm having, one-on-one conversation with someone, like my emotions are locked down tight. That's kind of the way I've always been, and that makes this even tougher because I have no outlet. But everything just boils over then. Like, you get so angry, you get the panic attacks. It's the most helpless and most awful feeling in the world, because at some point you can't even control what you're saying, what you're doing. I mean, there's a reason that I think it's 75% or so of couples that have a child with cancer end up in divorce. And I can absolutely see why. I mean, you don't have time to work on yourself, your marriage, focus on anything else. And
plus, I'm sure that it's fundamentally transforms who you are as a person and who your partner is as a person.
Yeah. I mean, you deal with it in different ways. You start to grow different personalities. Everything changes. You're a completely different person after going through something like this. Or I wouldn't say a completely different person, but more amplified your inhibitions and who you are, and it's kind of like having 5 or 6 drinks. Now all of a sudden you just let everything out. So that's the other thing too. Actually, before this, I was an alcoholic who was sober for probably about 2 years before all this came on, and well, there goes that, because that was kind of my only realistic coping mechanism.
So you don't have to answer, but how are you doing with that now?
If I have it in the house, I'm probably going to be getting drunk. If not, it's not like I need to go out. So it's still it's under control. But I'll get, because I'm a cheap drunk and we're a single income family. I get myself a box of Franzia, and that'll last 4 or 5 days, and then it's gone. Probably 4 days. And I'll go a couple of weeks without drinking, and then get another box, or rather, my neighbors will pick up a box for me. But yeah, I mean, in talking about this, I realized, oh damn, this was just a whole lot of depressing and not a lot of solutions. And
Well,
realistically, I haven't come up with any solutions.
well, I mean,
like this is so
what can you what can you do? Pull out a magic wand and make your son better? I know that would be the greatest thing ever. And I know you have to feel helpless. I felt helpless when my son was diagnosed with CRMS. Like I said, it was a death sentence for him at that time. He would live to be 40, and that was it. It was a long, slow death. And I felt powerless.
Right.
So I'm sure you feel about the same.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, I've been a little bit long-winded with kind of my story and background and everything. So, I mean, like I said, I'm an open book. Anybody that has any questions or how I deal with certain situations, that type of stuff, because I've never really put this into words before, apart from a friend that'll ask me how I'm doing and that type of stuff. It's not something that I've ever really verbalized very much at all.
All right. Yeah, I mean, obviously we're going to... I'll just address the elephant in the room. How is your child doing today?
Well, we're going to find out tomorrow. He finished treatment on August 28th. Everything has gone well to that point. We have an MRI tomorrow, which I'll be at all day. Fortunately, we have a great oncologist who gives us a call within a half hour of us leaving the hospital.
Oh, nice.
So, basically, they're just checking for any regrowth or anything like that. Once you complete treatment clean, you're at about a 90% survival chance. But if it comes back, your prognosis drops to at best 50%.
I don't have the words. I mean, obviously you want that 90%.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do any of the listeners have any questions?
Yeah, so far the chat has been really quiet. I am completely amazed at the strength of that you and your wife and your family have, because this cannot be something that is easy to do. I can't imagine. I can't fathom it.
Yeah, it's kind of the proverbial every parent's worst nightmare. You find out your kid died or your kid's going to die, and you hear brain cancer, and that's kind of the first thought is, well, my kid's going to die now.
Yeah. Well, we have a comment here. It says, when the shit hits the fan for you emotionally, how do you handle yourself so as not to take it out on your wife or your son? I ask because obviously we often take our emotions out on those we are closest to, and in this situation, that would be even more hard to deal with. And, your emotions are valid.
Thank you, Deverne, for that. Yes.
First thing is, sometimes it does end up spilling out onto my wife and kids. I'm a little hot-headed as it is, and don't get me wrong, I've never been abusive, never hit my wife or anything like that. But the verbal abuse can be bad as well, and and both my wife and I are very guilty of that, and it kind of goes back to why so many couples get divorced, because you are each other's outlet. When you're on an island like this, you end up a lot of just screaming at each other over the dumbest things. And it's always the stupid things that put you over the edge. But I've tried getting better with just, my wife and I both have, when we're red hot, it's just getting away. Like I'll get in my car and drive, or I'll just lock myself in my room, play a game, read a book, anything to get my mind 100% focused on something else. That's what I've found to be the best coping mechanism. It helps for me because I have a partner that if I'm running at 100 miles an hour, she can take over for a little bit, and vice versa. Unless we both are, then that's a whole other can of worms. But
right.
Getting away.
And I'm going to apologize to the listeners right now for the audio quality. We're getting some buzzing and echoing. Mr. Blonde lives in an area where his signal's not the greatest. He's in his car, having gone to some place that has better signal, but we're still having some issues.
It is probably on my end.
I mean, it is what it is. We're just going to push through it.
Yeah.
The worst technical issues that we've ever had was when everything first shut down and the internet just didn't have the bandwidth to cope with the amount of traffic. That episode, we kept getting disconnected constantly. It was awful. So this is a far cry better.
Good. I'm glad I'm not your worst experience.
Well, I mean, no, just kidding.
Yeah. What else we got? I mean, whether it's from you or Bex or whatever it might be.
I'm kind of surprised that there's a mutual friend that we have, Mr. Blonde, that I'm kind of surprised is not in the chat right now, to be honest.
What's that?
There's a mutual friend that we have that I'm kind of surprised is not in the chat. Since you're using the same name, I'm surprised that they're not here.
Oh, yeah, I imagine I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, if you hear their name on the chat, yeah, you'll know.
Yeah. And again, like I said, literally nothing is off limits for conversation.
I'm just waiting to see if anyone says anything. There's like I told you in our pre-episode meeting, there tends to be a delay between what we say and what they hear. And obviously, if someone's on a phone, typing's slower than being on a keyboard. And not everyone also can touch type.
Especially the elderly mutual friends we may have.
Yep.
Javerne just asked, how did you tell your son, and did he know when it happened?
We didn't for a while. It was probably... I think we just kind of told him there was something in his brain that needed to be taken out, and I actually had a couple brain surgeries when I was younger. They were accident related, nothing like this. So we kind of made it cool for him and like, hey, you're gonna have the surgery, but you're gonna have a matching scar like Daddy. But yeah, so eventually, he's 6. The last thing you want to tell your 6-year-old is, hey, you might die.
Yeah.
So
it's bad enough that you have to know that could happen, but telling a small child that is heartrending. Oh, I can't even.
Yeah, so it kind of came gradually. We'd have a little bit more conversation about why we're doing the treatments. That the tumor could come back and you'd have to have another surgery and that type of stuff. And eventually we just kind of started leading up more and more into a little bit more details. This is cancer. I started telling him about the cells in your body and that type of stuff. And at one point it was just like if we, because he's very good humored about it, and like he takes his treatments in stride. But as he started getting towards the end of treatment, it's like, I don't want to have to do this anymore. I'm tired. Why do I have to keep doing this? And that's kind of what it came out like, hey, if we don't take care of this, you will die.
Right.
So eventually that did end up coming out. So he understands the necessity to it. And I've kind of honestly grown a little numb to it. You deal with it for so long. I was dealing with this while my brother had his wife had terminal breast cancer that kind of metastasized all over her body after she beat it the first time.
Oh
So
my goodness.
he was kind of my only real support mechanism on the phone, and we just like have the darkest conversations. Like, yeah, he would say like, yeah, I just told Danny how I can't wait for her to die so I can trade her in for a younger model and stuff like this. Like,
And again, for the listeners out there that haven't been through anything this like this, yes, that joke actually is a coping mechanism, and it is actually pretty funny. But
and he did actually tell his wife that.
And I'm sure that his wife has just as dark a sense of humor too, considering she's the one that's dying.
Yeah. No, she found the humor in it, absolutely. But yeah, that's the thing. You can't say 90% of what pops into your brain with normal people. For all you normies out there, because like I wanted to test the waters one time, and I told that to a couple of my coworkers that I'm pretty close with, and they just looked at me like, "What in the hell is wrong with your brother?" I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I didn't think you'd get it, but that just kind of confirmed it for me." So that's kind of another isolating factor, is people don't understand what coping mechanisms you go through. They think you're just like all of a sudden really dark and can be a jerk and that type of stuff. When realistically, it's I've said horrible things to you to your face and in a crowd before, and
yeah, you have, and I just laugh it off. I find the humor in it.
Because you get it, and you know that there's no harm intended to it. That's just how the love comes out. The love comes out with evil.
It kind of does. And it was funny too because because we play a game together, just so everybody knows. I'm a guild leader in this particular game. Mr. Blonde joined in on the guild, and I mean, almost instantly he dropped a bomb of a joke, and I could feel everybody that was actively playing at that time just close the game and set their phones down. And I just started laughing my ass off. And it was one of those, rough crowd. Well, rough joke. let's be honest.
Yeah, you become an acquired taste.
Yes,
there is that.
Yeah, so I have to ask: have you looked at getting therapy? Because I mean, you have obviously. There's got to be some depression. There's got to be some anxiety, and there's probably a few other things hiding, jumbling around and rolling around in there. I don't think it could hurt. I mean, there's not a lot of tools on how to deal with a parent who has a child with cancer, as you found, or any kind of life-threatening illness or traumatic or whatever. But at least therapy could still maybe help.
And I haven't given it much credibility because I'm very skeptical of therapy. I've the stereotypical, macho guy. I don't talk about my feelings, and and talking about it, especially one-on-one like that, is difficult enough. But it kind of makes it more real. Like in a setting like this, it still seems like I'm third person. I'm talking about somebody else's life right now. So I can't go anywhere because my son's his counts, his white blood cell are essentially non-existent right now. So
right.
He goes by a passing germ. He was hospitalized for 2 weeks because he got a fever and had to be in the hospital for 2 weeks just because he had a fever over 100 degrees.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's not just immunocompromised; he has no immune system.
Right.
Yeah, essentially, it's slowly starting to come back, but I can't even go to realistically like the gas station or out shopping or meet anyone So we were a masked family well before all the mandates and everything came out.
Right.
Hey, we fit right in now.
First you were the odd man out, and now you're it. you're the example. But there is telehealth, just so you're aware, where it's that's what a lot of therapists are. That's how I'm doing all my therapy now, is through Zoom. And Bexy's trying to say something here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we have Kat that finally popped up in the chat.
Hey, Kat.
And Devern wants to know, being numb, does that affect how strongly you feel about the evil things going on, to your son? And if so, how do you cope with your reaction to confronting the numbness and how it affects things? I'm numb myself, so this is something I want to know.
Can you read that back one more time? Because that was a whole mouthful of
Sure. Okay, first thing, he asks, being numb, does that affect how strongly you feel about the evil things going on, to your son? And if so, do you cope with your own how do you cope with your own reactions to confronting the numbness and how it affects things?
So now that it's spelled out like that, I think numb is kind of a misnomer. I think it's more of a you don't feel good things anymore. The negative and that type of stuff kind of gets that foothold, and that's what you feel, and it kind of becomes an addiction, because that's the only thing that makes you feel is anger and hatred and resentment and that type of things. That's the only time that generally I actually feel any emotion. There's very, very little joy and happiness, I would say. That's kind of, I don't want to say killed, but it's on life support. And again, for the longest time, it was just I didn't know how to deal with it, and it did come out in very bad ways. Absolutely screaming, yelling at my kids, my wife, that type of stuff. It eventually came to she told me, like, you need to walk away, and she's as guilty of not wanting to walk away in the moment as well, because that's the hardest thing to do, because it's the only thing that gets some of that out, gets some of your emotions that have been bottled up out, is just unloading like that. So it goes down to, I'll just go and I'll put my nose in a book for 2-3 hours if the kids are in bed or something. Anything I can to escape reality, basically. I haven't really found a positive way to get the good emotions to come back out again.
Well, one thing that might help to at least curb the rage parts, ever think about investing in a heavy bag?
We have talked about that. Does it help?
I don't have one, but I used to bungee a pillow up on a bed frame that was up high, and I would just beat the snot out of that. And tell you what, the endorphin rush that you get from that, the exhaustion you get after that, the anger just melts away. You don't feel great, you don't feel good, but you also don't feel pissed. You don't feel helpless. It puts you in a more neutral place.
I think we're going to do that, because we've been talking about that for a while, and for both of our sakes. And that seems like a good idea.
Yeah, having something that you can take all that anger and frustration out on that's not a human person could only be a good thing.
Right. Yeah. Plus, you're going to get stronger. You're going to get that endorphin rush. Only good things will come of it. Even if you're mentally and emotionally not getting into a great place, at least you're getting out of a horrendous place. There's something to be said about that. That's a survival thing.
There's a lot to be said about that. I mean, when you're so down, you're so far deep in a hole that you can hardly see your way out of. And you find something that helps you, climb a little bit higher, even though you're not all the way out of that hell yet. You're on your way, and that's huge.
Yeah. And honestly, it's funny, Kat, kind of the only time that I actually feel, I would say, happy to an extent, and I wouldn't necessarily call it happy, but somewhat content, is actually when I'm working, because I'm focusing on a task and I'm being productive. When I'm done working, I'm so tired and exhausted and just drained that I don't have the energy to like do a project at home or anything like that at all. But when I'm focused on my work, because fortunately I'm in a position that I can work from home. When I'm focused on that for 9 hours a day, it's kind of an escape, and I can, I'm talking to normal people. I feel like a normal person again. So normal human interaction seems to help when it's in somewhat of a distance. Like I'm talking to people on the phone or over email or Teams or things like that. Just some human interaction without having to look at somebody in the face.
Well, that explains why you're in the guild to some extent. There's nobody normal in our guild, but
that's why I can deal with all you people. Because I don't have to look at you. Did that answer the question? I'm not sure if there's more to it.
Yeah, DeVern was mentioning it because he himself is numb and really wanted to know, because basically what you said I would suspect resonated with him. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I have a feeling that's where it's coming from.
Okay.
And Kat just said, I represent that remark.
She represents that mark?
Yeah, I always say I resemble that remark.
DeVern says, I think you got it.
It was the auto cucumbers.
Freaking auto cucumbers. I always end up with some thong out of Nintendo.
Thank you, DeVern. He's saying that E was right. Yes. I actually do have.
A big head. Don't give him his ego.
Oh my god, I say that all the time. Don't inflate the ego.
I swear to God, you people.
Hey, I speak from experience because somebody gives me a compliment and I get up and dance.
I get a compliment and I get
this man for so many years and being extraordinarily, non-biological brother. Yeah,
yes.
Don't inflate the ego.
Yeah. I'll just put it this way. When my ego inflates, Macy calls me and gives me a cease and desist because I'm getting bigger than their floats.
I give you a lot of hell about your ego, but I love you.
I know, and I need the humility. I do. I will say, as far as the numbness goes, I can relate to actual, true emotional numbness due to the fact that I'm actually highly sensitive to most medications. And when I was initially diagnosed with depression, they put me on SSRI, Paxil specifically. Now, I'm not trying to say that Paxil's awful. I'm not trying to say it's great. I'm just saying, for me, it was not the right match. I emotionally flatlined. I couldn't feel happiness. I couldn't feel sadness. I couldn't feel anger. I couldn't feel anything. And it caused me to start acting out just to try to get a reaction from myself, including attacking the people closest to me with just the most vicious verbal and emotional attacks I could come up with. And that wasn't me. I look back on it and that's a medicated me, over-medicated me that just, wow. I am so glad that I'm not on any SSRIs right now. They don't work for me. I've tried 6 different ones. They just don't work for me. I did find what does work.
I am actually on an SSRI, but it helps me.
Right, and by all means, if it, and it's usually the first thing tried for depression that I've noticed is an SSRI. And whenever I go to a nice psychologist or a new psychiatrist, they always ask, "Hey, have you tried this?" I'm like, "Is that an SSRI?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "No, just no."
See, I take Celexa every day, and where my emotions are usually very heightened and like I'm super sensitive, the Celexa kind of narrows that. It kind of tones that down, so I still feel. It's just not as extreme.
Basically, if I were to take a stab at it, you no longer feel overwhelmed by your emotions.
I am not overwhelmed anymore. It helps a lot in that aspect.
I think kind of what's come out of this too, and my wife and I have realized we need to do, because a lot of these charity organizations and stuff, obviously 99% of them are tailored to kids, but we've been trying to figure out ways to focus on the parents, because there's already 1,001 ways that kids get taken care of, the siblings, the kid that's going through it and everything. So just figuring out ways to help take care of the parents, whether it's getting just a little gift basket or something at the hospital, or even the simple things like getting toiletries when you're at the hospital, nice stuff that's not like the cheap bar of soap that they have there, and things like that, because
things people would actually use in their day-to-day lives.
Yeah, because when you have to suddenly go to the hospital, the last thing is, oh, that's right, I need my toothpaste and my toothbrush and my nice soap and that type of stuff. You're kind of just living with what's the cheapest thing that a hospital will have for your supplies. For and some people it's a month plus at a time. The kids that have leukemia and stuff, like their parents a lot of times will be in the hospital for 6 weeks at a time with them, regularly. Every few months they'll be in the hospital for 6 weeks. We met a family down at the Ronald McDonald House that for 2 years they had spent over half their time at the Ronald McDonald House. So the self-care definitely is the first thing to go.
And that's so important. I mean,
it is.
It is so important.
Before this, I took a shower and shaved my head, and it's like I feel like a new person again. But when you've got so much going on, there's times where you'll go a week, 2 weeks without bathing, because honestly you don't even think about it.
Yep.
You've got so much else going on.
I was gonna say, it's when things are that hectic, I think you pretty much kind of just float through life on autopilot, and you do only what you need to do, and you're so focused on your child that you don't even think about yourself.
It's like, okay, I have a hunger migraine now, and I'm dizzy. I should probably eat.
Essentially what it gets to.
Okay, so I'm about to crap my pants. I should probably go to the bathroom.
I don't know if I've ever been that deep, but...
Oh, okay,
Kat says you're
that
not
must
able
be
to
just
care
me.
for your child if you don't take care of yourself.
Yeah, that was what Kat just said. And
What's
it's true. Kat just said that, you're not able to care for your child if you don't take care of yourself.
Yeah,
well, initially you're like super dad, but as you're neglecting yourself, that goes away fast.
Yeah, like I said, the first month, and I'm not sure if Kat was on for this, the first month is all you are running pure adrenaline, and you can do everything and anything because you need to. But then once you start to slow down and start feeling the weight and what you're going to be dealing with long term, that's when everything starts to kind of fall apart, once you start feeling again.
So, I know this is going to be a question that some people will be like, ew, gross, but there's a reason for it, and Bexy will know it almost instantly. Have you gone without brushing your teeth, and how long have you, if you have?
So I'm actually only a once a day person with that to begin with, and I always laugh every time I go to the dentist. So like, wow, you take really good care of your teeth. I was like, I just brush really good once a day.
Dang.
I have probably gone 4 days without brushing my teeth. Definitely to the point where there is, I have my own biome growing in my mouth.
Okay, that was a great description. The reason I bring that up is there was an essay that I wrote, which was the seed that was planted that became this podcast. And I actually went into how long I have neglected brushing my teeth. And I hate to say it, but you know what? Just for the sake of being honest, I have actually forgotten how long it had been between teeth brushings. Why I still have perfect teeth, I don't know.
You must have, you grew up on well water, didn't you?
No, I grew up on mountain spring water. Not even kidding.
Well, natural,
Yeah.
like, non-city water.
Yeah, non-city water.
I just chalk it up to you being an anomaly. That's all. You're just weird.
But yeah, kind of going back to the self-care thing. I mean, it's kind of funny because every parent, every person knows that that's what you need to do, but by the time you're able to, by the time the kids go to bed, and I'm sure my youngest two are still up making a ton of noise at home. By the time they actually go to sleep, all you can do is shut down. So realistically, the only time for self-care is if it's like on a weekend, and I'll tell my wife, hey, I need to go take a shower. I need to do something that for myself. You're on your own for a little bit. Which normally in normal life is fine. Yeah, I got this for a little bit, but everything is overwhelming at this point. Even though we've settled into routine and that type of stuff, everything just becomes a mountain. Feeding the kids, if they want stories, or I feel bad because it's like, your kid says, can you read me a story before bed? And it's just like, the last thing I want to do is one more thing.
Right.
So you start to neglect your kids a lot too, because you just don't have anything left.
And just for clarity, I just want to make sure, when you say that you're neglecting your kids, you don't mean like actual criminal neglect. You mean little niceties here and there neglect.
Yeah.
Things that if things were normal, you wouldn't neglect.
Podcast, can you?
What was that?
I said, you can't trace where I am on this podcast, can you?
I don't think so. I will say that privacy is a number one thing. They would have to come with warrants for me to divulge anything, and even then it's going to be okay, I'll see you in court before I divulge anything.
Yeah, no, and it's like the hey, I made you this drawing, I want to show you this, and it's like, just let me be in silence for a little bit. Like, I don't care about your drawing right now, I just want everything to be off.
Right. It's like, I care about your drawing, but right now I just don't have the energy to care.
Yeah, and realistically, but the way it comes off to your kids is that you just don't care.
Right.
A 3-year-old doesn't understand that you just don't have the energy. So I look back, every night, and it's like, man, I was so just, not a loving parent by how dismissive I was of certain things, and not being there when they were proud of something or things like that. And that kind of compounds on everything as well. Just makes you feel bad on top of everything else going on.
Well, I will say, the fact that you actually recognize this, that's huge. It means you're aware of it. It's bothering you. You're likely to do something about it, is what I'm thinking. Yeah, I know a lot of people that wouldn't even recognize that.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of the New Year's resolution, though. It's like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it well, and then you wake up the next day, and it's like, oh, we're back in autopilot.
Yeah. Yeah, welcome to depression, folks.
Right. Oh, going back a little bit, Javern says, when you were talking about not brushing your teeth, Javern says, I relate to this. I don't brush my teeth too often. I go to bed without brushing. So I relate to this, especially for days, for real.
It's funny. I never realized my friends paid attention to this, the teeth thing, because we were playing a Would You Rather game back probably 10 years ago or so. And one of them was, would you rather eat the plaque out of the person to your left or the person to your right's mouth? And everyone was like skipping over the left and right and going to me because they're like, I see how long he brushed his teeth for. He doesn't have any plaque in his mouth.
You might be surprised. Just because you don't see it in the front doesn't mean that it isn't in the back.
I only do that. I only brush my teeth once a day on a good day.
Yeah, and me, I have high blood sugars, so plaque, it grows like daisies, man, for me. Daisies after a rainstorm.
Gross.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks so bad.
Can we move on from this conversation? I'd rather talk about my kid with cancer.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Folks, so we have just made podcast history for this show. The guest has asked us to move on.
You know, you can't say I didn't give him a warning the other night. I told him when we're unsupervised.
Yeah. Now, I will, there was actually something that was kind of cool that we learned about, that Bexy discovered last night, which it would have been cool had we had our season premiere last night, because yesterday was International Podcast Day.
Oh,
This is marked on the calendar for next year. We will not forget.
That's right. Today is actually National Daughters Day, from what I remember.
I thought that was like a week ago.
I know, I don't know. When you get those memes, they don't put a date on them. So if you're making those memes for those holidays, please put the date.
I'm just going to do them for random dates. Just confuse everyone.
It's National Taco and Tequila Day. Really? No, I don't know. I just made it
Isn't
up.
that every Tuesday?
Yeah, that's every day.
I thought every Tuesday was tacos, tequila, and the other T word.
Tornadoes?
Tatas.
Oh. All right, so, I mean, so how are your other kids taking all of this? I mean, I know they're younger. I know that, so I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, so I know that where the comprehensions basically are. But, I mean, your kids obviously have to know that this isn't quite normal, maybe?
Yeah, and it comes out with the acting out a lot, which leads to a lot of resentment from us, because it's like, what is wrong with you? Like, you're healthy, you have nothing to complain about, you have everything you need. Yeah, we can't go anywhere. But that kind of leads into a downward spiral too, because they act out because they're not getting what they need, because they don't understand it, honestly. I forgot when I don't know why I laughed about this, but a month preceding this, actually, Mother's Day last year. So my son was sick, but we didn't know what was going on. My wife actually had a miscarriage on Mother's Day as well.
Oh.
So we were dealing with the stress of that. Trying to take care of my son and figure out what was wrong, and then 3 weeks later, 2-3 weeks later, found out that he had a brain tumor. So it's been a hell of a last year and a half.
Oh.
Damn.
So we came into this situation already emotionally damaged from that. And then of course, we had told the kids a couple weeks before that they were going to have a baby sibling and that type of stuff, and they didn't really understand what was going on when she lost the baby as well, so they keep talking about it and that type of stuff, and it's like just ripping off scabs of that are with all the other open wounds.
And I mean, and obviously they don't know. Yeah, they don't know, they don't mean any harm.
Yeah, no, they're just being kids, but it everything just kind of leads to just horrible emotions that brings out the worst in you.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I know.
I'm kind of with the, congratulations, you made me speechless. That just does not happen.
Yeah, it's been a year and a half. We only got to live in South Carolina for a good 3-4 months before everything started hitting the fan.
Oh.
Leave it to 2020.
Devern just said, I want to take a moment to tell Mr. Blonde that I think it is impressive that you haven't given up.
Yeah, I may have. I don't know. I don't know.
No. I don't think you've given up.
No.
I think it's more of a, I grew up in the very very traditional roles type of family where my wife, she's always wanted to stay at home with the kids, and that's what I always wanted was a wife that stayed at home with the kids, took care of them, wanted to homeschool them, that type of stuff. And I've always had this just ingrained sense of duty to provide for the family and that type of stuff. So I feel like I'm more motivated mostly on my animalistic instinct as a provider. And that's, I think, kind of the only thing that keeps me going is it's just survival instinct, and the only thing I know how to do and how to control. Like, I know how to provide for my family, and that's the only thing I know how to do well. So it's kind of my only thing that's kept me afloat, I think, or at least treading water.
It's still a lot better than just flat out giving up. Let's just be honest.
And a lot of people do. I mean, and my wife told me, she's like, and anybody that has kids will feel this to some extent, like, but when you're going through so much, she's like, I can understand where somebody would be driving over a bridge and just take a hard right into the river. Like, I get, like, the desire to just end it is so strong, that, somebody that has completely given up, like, people that, have gotten to the point where, they have truly abused their spouse or their children. Like, I don't think I would ever get to that point, but I can, in a sick sort of way, understand it now.
Right. It's like, though, I think that's ultimately the difference between a good person and a bad person, is that everybody has the capacity to feel these things. It's who acts upon it and who has the strength not to act upon it. That's the differentiation for me.
I don't even know if it's good versus bad. I think it's, how broken are you? Like, how
that's fair.
Destroyed by this situation you've gotten.
That feeling that you get where you feel like you could just drive off a bridge or drive into a tree. It actually has a name. And it's
let me guess, it's German?
No, it's French, actually.
Oh.
L'appel du vide describes the impulse to hurt yourself, and it's called the call of the void.
Oh,
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, and I can relate. When I was going through a divorce and living in San Diego, every time I was on the freeway going under one particular overpass, I would just fixate on the cement pillar right in the center divide that had nothing between the road and it other than a little strip of dirt.
Mm-hmm. So.
I was sitting there thinking, oh God, I just name dropped myself. I was thinking,
it wasn't me this time. Yes.
I was thinking, pizza sounds pretty good today. Oh, Vanya! Wow!
I got you so gross.
Oh my God, Vanya, you're awesome.
I don't know if you heard that, but Vanya just came in. First thing she puts in the chat, of course it's the French that understand giving up. Well, look at parkour. It's the art of escaping as fast and as efficiently as possible.
I just figured it was going to be German because it has to do with pain.
Oh, man. Okay, so look, we're just kidding. For any of you that may get upset or offended by all this, we're just kidding. I mean, seriously. Just got to throw that out there. Got to protect ourselves here.
So the dark humor comes out.
Yes, the dark humor comes out, and it'll come out in weird ways. And yes, some stereotypes will wind up getting hit with this, but we do try very hard to avoid any of the mental health stereotypes because what's our topic?
Well, hey, I'm German. I can say those things.
My heritage is German Jew. It's kind of why I'm afraid to shower.
Yeah. Wow. I thought I was bad with German and Polish, but,
Oh!
Cat says, certain freeway pillars have a dark fascination.
Yeah. And DeVern, it's fine if it's serious, to be honest. I'm here for what you mean. Yeah. We're just releasing a little bit. We've been in a dark place here for most of this conversation. We needed a little release.
Yeah.
There needed to be a little bit of humor thrown in there. I myself have been on the verge of tears several times, and I haven't.
I'm impressed that she hasn't cried yet.
I know. I've wanted to a lot.
I bet you if you were not the co-host, you would be in tears right now.
You're right.
So I got you to say your name, but I haven't gotten back to you to cry yet.
Yeah.
All right, I'll keep working on it. So now that everybody truly knows that I have no bounds and everything, is there any other questions? Because I do have to get going pretty soon. But any other wildly inappropriate questions, or that you think might be wildly inappropriate? Because nothing is off base.
Oh, Vanya just said, "Do you avoid trains as well?"
Me or Eric?
I think so.
Oh!
Name drop.
Yeah, I'm wondering who is being referenced for the avoiding trains. And the dark humor in me is wondering what kind of trains are we talking about?
Yeah, I think it was the Aussies that made an awesome commercial about it. I think it's "Dumb Ways to Die" is the song. Look it up. It's fantastic. It's actually a commercial that the Australian rail system put out. It's called "Dumb Ways to Die," and it is probably one of the funniest 3-minute videos I've ever seen in my life. And their government actually put it out, and it just has a passing mention of being safe around trains.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Okay. Devern asks, "What pushes you to your limits with this, and what is the hardest conversation you've had to have with your son or wife?"
The hardest conversation that I had with my son was, I don't know if it was a conversation so much as he was refusing to take his medicine one time, and this was somewhat early on. And I just kind of lost it because it was, I forget what medicines it was, but I basically lost it on him and told him, like, if you don't take this medicine, like, the cancer is going to come back and you will die. And he was 6 years old at the time, and I think that kind of triggered a little bit of our further conversation. Everything's been not easy, but easier to talk about with him since that point. Once kind of it was all cards on the table, because he was old enough at that point to realize that, to an extent, what dying means. He knew a great grandma that had died and a couple other people, but with honestly with my wife, it's gotten to the point where every conversation is hard. Just having a normal conversation, and not even anything in particular, is just, the mundane becomes difficult, just from like I don't want to have to talk right now. But as far as a emotionally difficult conversation, it's kind of the hidden things where we'll beat around the bush, but we know what each other means. Like if my son throws up in the morning, that was kind of the first signal that my son had, was morning vomiting from hydrocephalus, because the tumor was blocking his cerebrospinal fluid in his brain, and that's why the vomiting got worse as the tumor grew, because there was more and more pressure and consistent. So it's kind of the, when he throws up in the morning type of thing, it's is the tumor coming back, or we've kind of become worst case scenario for everything, even the other two. So it's not necessarily the conversations that are hard. It's the what's not said that we both know is kind of the hardest thing. What gets left unsaid.
Ouch.
Yeah. Ow.
I mean, obviously, this is not what either of you had planned for when you guys got married. Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, and because this was, moving to South Carolina was kind of always a dream, like getting out of Minnesota and moving to where we could be, by the ocean and go to the beach when we wanted to. And we had finally made this dream happen. And, everything just unraveled shortly thereafter.
We got a couple comments. Devern says, "My mom and I have that issue just because I am over her and she never gets me." And Kat says, "Something just popped up on Twitter from someone I follow. How much crafting do I have to do before I feel again asking for a friend?"
That's something that I would normally enjoy doing. something like doing woodworking or things like that, or just projects around the house. But again, like I said before, everything's lost its appeal. Things that I used to love doing are just kind of monotonous.
And plus, if you're an outdoorsy kind of person, that also puts your family at more risk. Even if you're not coming in contact with people, just the sheer number of things that you can contract from just about any environment alone. I mean, that's got to be terrifying.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't imagine living in a state where you have to be constantly careful of anything that you track into your house because of, you have a child with no immune system at all.
Yeah, like we have our groceries delivered with Instacart. When they get there, it's like, okay, now I have to wash my hands before I touch the groceries. And when I'm doing the groceries, we have to wipe down every single square inch of everything with vinegar. Let it set out for a couple minutes. Then we've got one person that puts it away and, trying to kill anything that somebody that may have had on them when they dropped it off.
Lysol becomes your best friend.
Everything, even the easiest tasks normally just become mountainous tasks. Like what should be 5 minutes of putting away groceries turns into an hour-long ordeal with two people.
Yeah, and I mean, I have a background in sterile processing. I know what that's like to have to detail clean everything. No surfaces left untouched. Like the box hinge on a pair of scissors. A lot of people don't think to clean that hinge, but guess what?
You gotta clean it.
Yeah, so I'm sure that you look at food and your groceries in a totally different light than everybody else when it comes to cleaning it. Where you're thinking, I have to clean like this particular nook and cranny that most other people would never, ever think of.
Right. And it's, like I said, every, and that's why, we're so exhausted and tired, is because every simple task just becomes a mountain to tackle.
Yeah, Kat and I are having a little conversation, a little sidebar conversation in the chat. So, it's about that Twitter friend. I responded back to Kat saying, "Sounds like you have a friend that needs a friend," and they said that they have a lot of health issues and are under care. They're just open about it. Like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So they were just more of that dark humor side of things than it was a cry for help.
Yeah.
I always err on the side of caution when I see those kinds of things. Like, hey, is everything okay? Like, no, it's just a joke. Oh, okay. Actually, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. Yeah, you did that with me at first until you were like, yeah, I don't believe you.
Yeah. Until I got, yeah. If I have to learn where your lines are, so.
Yeah, and I don't have any lines. There's no lines to cross with me.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I am too.
Just for the record, I'm driving back to my place now, so at some point I might cut out. But I'm here in the meantime till that does happen.
All right, perfect. Yeah, because you were saying you had to leave pretty soon.
Yeah, and like I said, I just got it on speaker, so I can keep talking as I go.
Okay. Devern says, dude, I'm sorry about your relationship with your wife and what happened to it. I don't think I'm qualified to say anything except I hope you all will have a happy ending.
Yeah, I mean,
I have to echo that happy ending sentiment. I hope that everything does.
Yeah, whichever way the cards lie, whichever the way the chips fall, I hope in the end everybody's happy. That's the goal.
And I was raised Catholic, and if any of you have been raised Catholic and have had a falling out,
I have.
Know that the Catholic guilt stays with you forever. It never, ever, ever leaves. So
so to give you an idea of how deep I was in the Catholic religion, I was an altar boy and very proud of it, and I was actually strongly considering joining the priesthood. Obviously, I'm not there now.
Yeah. My uncle, if you are, you're a terrible priest.
Well, I don't think you'd be the worst priest in the world.
my uncle is a priest as well. He was actually the one that married my wife and I. But we, when we got married, it was under the we're getting married and we are stuck with each other for life. Like there is no getting out of this, no matter how bad things get. Which I think is the way everybody should look at marriage, but that's more of a personal thing. And so it's kind of we're stuck together, even if we have to find a way to work through our problems and to forgive each other for the horrible things we say and do and that type of stuff, which is, it sounds kind of dark, but it's a good thing because it forces you to realize, hey, I'm with this person for life, so we have to figure out a way to get through this, and there's no way to do it but together.
I think that's really admirable, though.
It is.
What's that?
I said I think that's really admirable, though. I mean, just honestly.
And there was a quote that I heard once, and it's one of those darkly true quotes, which is the person that has the power in the relationship is the one that cares the least. So as long as you two are caring equally and you're both trying equally, you guys have equal footing and equal power. It's if one of you two gives up, you're going to feel that power shift real quick.
Yeah. No, I think there's some accuracy to that.
So,
but yeah, that's the hardest thing is, not the hardest, but that's a really hard thing is, you can feel your marriage, and not just your marriage, but all your relationships just crumbling away. And there's not much you can do at it. I mean, you can try to work through everything, but, the person that is...
Yep, and there he goes.
Yep.
I don't know if you can hear us, Mr. Blom, but you're breaking up really bad now. Yeah, this might be the end of the episode with Mr. Blonde here.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, there he is.
Oh,
there he is.
Hey, I'm back. I just wanted to do some power lines. I think that... but yeah, I mean, the hard part is your partner in the same struggle and not much support because they need support too.
Yeah, I think enough came through for us to understand that. It sounded like, you have to recognize that your partners go through the same struggle and they need support too. Of course, it's difficult when you need to support yourself.
Yeah, when you've got a broken leg and you're trying to lean on a person that also has a broken leg, it's not going to work very well.
No. Great analogy.
Yeah, thank you. I just came up with that right now.
Yeah, definitely. You know what?
Aww.
Keep that analogy. That is a brilliant analogy.
Well, Devern just said, if you want, I'm on Facebook. I know you mentioned that. Mr. Blonde, you are better than you know.
Aww.
And I will echo what Devern just said about you. You are better than you know.
Yes.
You're just in a very bad place, and it's going to create a negative self-image. This is not an uncommon or unknown thing. But there's a reason why I consider you a friend.
Yeah. And for the record, if I'm breaking up, I can still hear you two just fine.
Nice. Oh, Kat just said me 3, so I guess you have Kat as a friend too now.
Well, I will quote Winnie the Pooh and say that I really think you are braver than you believe and stronger than you think.
Damn it, now you just made me like Winnie the Pooh.
Any other questions before I cut out? It's probably going to be about 2 minutes and I'm gone.
All right, everybody, this is your chance to get your last questions in. We could also continue the conversation on Facebook if Mr. Blonde decides to do it. It will expose his identity, which is why I'm still working on trying to get the forums up on our website so we can still protect identities.
There you go.
Also, you guys can message me directly, and I can always ask Mr. Blonde. I have ways to contact him privately, and I could share that the questions and answers on Facebook, protecting everybody's identity. Again, privacy is my number one thing.
Yeah, at least I know CPA. This is no man.
Wow,
the cutting out's gotten bad.
It's gotten way bad. I heard CPA.
No, so Steve is not going to be knocking on my door with
CPS.
Yeah, no, we don't want that. I actually have a friend that works for CPS, and they said it is actually really amazing how far CPS allows parents to go before they'll take kids away. And I'm talking conditions that would make a hoarder vomit.
Oh, that's sad.
Kat says...
I thought they had a wide latitude for what they can take kids away for.
They can. They just don't want to, and they will usually, if you show that you're willing and try, like you're actually trying, they will let a lot go as long as you're trying.
Kat says, I think knowing and acknowledging the issues is a big part of the solution. Much luck and love to you and your family, B.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's a lifelong journey for sure, and I've you've got to figure out ways to cope, because this does not end when treatment ends. It's a lifelong battle. He's going to have cognitive issues. It can stem he can have other things like infertility. He may stop growing cognitively. He may stop growing physically. Other cancers, even as early as his 20s, that normally people don't get till their 70s or 80s. So it's a lifelong battle.
And now I've got tears.
You did it.
Yay, I did it.
And Devern just said, and most importantly, good luck to your son. Yeah, let's just hope that he can have the highest quality of life that is possible for what he's fighting.
It's an amazing kid. He's so lucky, and that helps us because he's got such a good attitude. We got to get...
Man, I really wanted to hear that.
I did too.
But it's good to know that he has a great attitude and a good outlook.
Yes, it is. And Devern says, I feel like with autism myself, I can feel the pain of cognitive stuff.
Guys. Yeah, I will say I have no idea what someone with autism goes through. I mean, I have some idea, obviously, because I know a lot of people with autism, but not being on the spectrum myself that I'm aware of, I can only imagine.
You there?
Yeah, we're here.
We're here.
Yep.
Oh, we just lost him. I just heard the disconnect.
Oh, man.
It's Otto trying to reconnect right now. Nope, he is gone. We have lost signal completely.
Devern says, I'm high functioning enough to be normal enough, but see how fucking strange I am.
If that right there was the litmus test, then I would be on the spectrum. Because I'm not normal.
Normal is way overrated in my opinion anyway.
Yeah, I agree. My grandma, my mom's side, always said that if our house was a sane asylum, our motto would be, some of us are here because we're not all there.
Devern says, welcome to the spectrum, E.
She also said that we're the fun side of crazy. So I guess since we have a couple minutes here and we're done, I think, with Mr. Blonde at this point. I know that I put out some stuff on Facebook. I put out some stuff in other social media platforms and whatnot about something personal that I've been really dealing with and trying to wrap my head around. It's not official yet. I've already messaged my doctor about it, and I got a reply saying it sounds very plausible, but he would need to see me in person to give an official diagnosis. I may not actually have exactly ADD, anxiety, and depression, because those three things together are usually a red flag for bipolar 2. And after really looking deeper into bipolar 2, I mean, we had Jen in season 1 who went into detail about bipolar 2, and I started going through and doing a lot of my own digging. My wife went and did a lot of digging, and she kept asking me, doing all these little surveys and questionnaires, and every single one was 100% yep. It explains every aspect of my life. So, yeah,
Wow.
I've been trying to wrap my head around that. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, even though I know that we are trying to remove the stigma of mental health, this is a diagnosis that has always carried heavy stigma in my family and in my life. So I'm not any different. I'm still the same person. I just now have a better diagnosis, and now I know what's going on because, okay, again, like I said, it's not official yet, but it explains everything. And when you're bipolar 2, one thing that I didn't know is that the manic episodes can be, instead of super happy and unflappable attitude, which I get occasionally, it could come across as irritability and compatibility and conflict seeking, which, who, me? It's not like I've had multiple accounts banned from Twitter.
Oh, no, not you.
It's not like I've been in Facebook jail for the 30-day period multiple times.
Well, we have a couple. Kat says, "Is anyone really normal?" Javern says, "Also, I need on this podcast on season 4. LOL, I belong here." I agree with that.
I agree with that. We'll make it happen.
Yes, we will. And Kat says, "Your family put the fun in dysfunctional."
Oh, yes, we did. I called my grandma grandmama because of the Addams Family.
Well, since we're giving updates and stuff like that, I don't. I've recently been to the doctor because I've had some bad issues with my autoimmune things, and I have found out a couple of things that I'm wrapping my head around as well, because I have some issues with my kidneys now where they're not functioning properly, and I have somehow managed to get an infection in my feet, which bothered me enough anyway, and then to add an infection and extra inflammation on top of them has been something else. I've been having to actually take ice baths with my feet, like stick them in ice water, which hurts to no end, but it helps the inflammation. So it's one of those things that I have to do even if I don't want to do it.
Yeah. And what about your kidneys? Are they getting any better?
Well, at my doctor's recommendation, I have cut out all caffeine. So it's nothing but water and like sugar-free, juice mixes for me now.
And you know about me and caffeine. I hear no more caffeine, and I hear basically no more oxygen.
Yeah, I'm struggling with the no more caffeine thing. I have a massive headache right now, but I'm thinking once I can get past the detox of that and I can get over the loss of my coffee. I miss my coffee.
I was never really a big coffee drinker. I mean, I would drink it because it has caffeine, but I was never really coffee. I always went, caffeine.
You were all, sugar-free rock star.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm done with those. Woo.
But, so I'm dealing with that. I have to go get, I have to go do some more tests on my thyroid because it's messing up again. So that could mean potentially that my autoimmune disease is worsening. which
Oh.
scares me a little. Actually, it scares me a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to process that, but I'm trying to keep a good attitude on it. The good news is that right now, what's going on with my kidneys is completely reversible.
Good.
I've got some medicine that should help protect my kidneys now, and cutting out the caffeine and all of that will help greatly too.
Well, I mean, caffeine is a diuretic. Diuretics cause dehydration. Dehydration makes kidneys work harder. I can see all that.
Yes, and it's bad enough that I'm already on a diuretic because the swelling is one of the symptoms of my autoimmune disease. So it's like I have to balance all of this out. We have to find a good combination that's going to help without, further damaging my kidneys.
Right. I mean, yeah, sure, you could go ahead and get a kidney transplant, but man, the meds you're going to be on for the rest of your life for that. Well, I mean, you already have a bunch of other meds.
Yeah,
I'm sure that there won't be any conflicts.
Yeah, right.
Right.
And I'm just to the point where it's like, okay, I cannot take any more health things. No more for this year, please. I mean, so far this year, I've had in so many just infections. 2020 has just wrecked me, and I think
2020 has just been an awful year.
Yeah, it has.
I was able to look back at 2016, which was an awful year, Harambe and everything. But when you really look back at 2016, there was a lot of things I had happen that were good. 2020, well, I mean, I got the podcast. That's good. And I haven't died, so that's good.
Right. Oh, Devern, you're sweet. I'm not giving up, and I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. He says, "Fuck, all good vibes to you, Bex. I really don't know what to say, but I hope you keep pushing." Yeah, I don't give up so easily. I'm pretty tough, stronger than I realized. So,
yeah. Hey, like I said, for you, you're my willow, and I will rise.
Yes, exactly. There's nothing that has been thrown at me so far that I have not overcome.
And they say that which doesn't kill you, better run.
Yeah, that which doesn't kills me gives me a really dark sense of humor and insane coping mechanisms.
Yep. Also, if with everything that you've been through, if it makes you stronger, I think you're practically invincible.
There are days I don't feel that way. I mean, the last week has been rough. You saw me the other day over video chat. It was not a good look.
No, it really wasn't. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. No, it was not a good look.
It was not good. I know that. It was horrible. But yep. I'm actually feeling better. I've gotten all the meds back. I've got some new stuff. Yeah, the ice on my feet is helping. They actually look like normal feet, so yay.
That's a good sign.
Oh, as Hart says, I was a willow last night in a dream. I bent down over a clear running stream, sang you the song that I heard up above, and you kept me alive with your sweet flowing love. Oh, that's sweet, Devern.
Aww.
I'm gonna cry again.
And 1 point for Devern.
Yeah, are we keeping tally on how many times Bexy's gonna cry?
If we were playing it as a shot game, I'd get alcohol poisoning.
I know.
Another update I'm going to go ahead and throw out. SAD. Something I brought up in the very first episode of the podcast, and I bring up occasionally. Well, we are now officially in fall. We now have longer nights than we have days, and it's just going to keep getting darker and darker. Believe me, I am feeling it. Some years I'm better than others. This year is looking to be absolutely awful. I'm already withdrawing from things that I enjoy. I'm already starting to withdraw from friends, and family, and interactions. I am already starting to become dependent on my happy lights. And a lot of this, I think, has to do with the fact that we've been locked down for so long. I haven't been able to actually have a good, normal summer and get, out there and do a bunch of good stuff. And with all the smoke in the area, living in California, if you live in the valley, it doesn't matter if the fire is 200, 300, 400 miles away from you. You are going to get the smoke if you're in the valley. So that's not been playing very well on things either. And yeah, so I'm struggling. I'm not going to lie. Dude, in KC, that is on 96.5 The Buzz. Nice. I actually sound like a radio DJ. And I'm not even using my DJ voice. 96.5 on your dial. Yeah, and I know the cat right there just said, that makes me sad, pun not intended, because I love the longer nights and winter months. So, one of my... he's my brother. Non-biological brother. He loves rain. And, his favorite weather in the world is when it's that overcast with a slight drizzle. I call that suicide weather. Because I'm not going to commit suicide. You don't need to worry about that. That is not going to happen. But that's what suicidal ideation sets in with me. And I have to swat at it and keep swatting at it. It's like, having a picnic next door to a pasture filled with cows. There are flies everywhere. So, yeah, no. That's really nice now when it gets that way. He'll go outside, today is so awesome. I love days like this. I need to call E, see how he's doing. And seriously, I love him to death for that. I know you're going to listen to this later. I know that you're working right now. Bro, I love you. And I want you to enjoy those down days like that. Are down days for me. For you, they're definitely upper days for you. Enjoy them. Seriously. I will be fine. When I need you, I will let you know. Devern and I have something in common. I hate snow. I grew up in the mountains. I don't like snow. I love the mountains. I just don't like snow.
There he goes, his ego again.
Yep. All right, so, yeah, we had a pretty good conversation with Mr. Blonde. Seriously, Mr. Blonde, I hope that you get to hear the end of this. Seriously, I know it sounds so cliche, but I mean, honestly, I can't go out to South Carolina and be there with you. So all I can say is, man, thoughts and prayers for you, your family, especially your son. And, I am going to still be chatting you up all the time. And I hope that you reach out when you need it. I know that you're that stubborn, old-fashioned man persona, but you did come on this podcast. Tells me that you do value mental health. So let's work on that. Oh, North Carolina. My bad. Well, the Carolinas. Like the Carolina Pine Forest. Devern loves snow. I love skiing. I love sledding. I love making snowmen, snowball fights. I love burrowing into snowbanks and making a little underground, under the snow forts and stuff. I hate shoveling it. I hate driving in it. I hate walking in it. I hate the day-to-day about it. I hate that the inside of my car never dries out for 4 months. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine, having toddlers and trying to get them into a car when it's snowing, and, they're not going to knock the snow off their feet. They're just going to be like, hey, look at me.
Yeah. There is one trick that we learned. Put dryer sheets under your floor mats in your car. It helps to prevent mildew from forming.
Oh, nice.
Of all things, dryer sheets. And it actually works. I can attest to it. Because I got curious. I went, I wonder how true this is. So I put a dryer sheet under my side of my truck, and I left the no dryer sheet on the passenger side, and I never really had a lot of passengers, and my side was the one that got all the wetness, and my passenger side was the one that got the mildew.
Nice.
All right, so I guess we should call this a wrap.
Yeah, I'd say.
And everyone, if you have any last questions that you want to throw in the chat, even as we're going through the outro here, anything for Mr. B, I will reach out to him and I will update on the Am I Mental Facebook page, facebook.com/mentallivecast. When I find time, of course, I will update this episode onto our website, amimental.net. If you haven't checked it out, please do so. I put a lot of work into that.
It looks awesome. It really does.
I literally sat for like a half hour, 40 minutes, just picking out the color scheme. That's how serious I took this. All right. Hey, love you too, DeVern. And Cats, for you, Bexy, I'm going to read it to you. Best of luck with results, Bexy.
Thanks, Kat.
All right. And see you guys next week. Remember, 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern. I'm not quite sure what it is, Greenwich Mean Time. I will have to look that up. Although we're about to get out of daylight savings and going back to standard time. I hate time change. It is what it is. But yes, hopefully we will start getting more of our regulars coming back, once they realize, oh crap, they're back on the air again and they're an hour earlier.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Until then, peace out.
Bye, guys.